Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our continuing series, Naomi Super Happy Fun Time, because I couldn't think of a better title, and if you can't tell already, we're playing Initial D today, and this is Initial D Arcade Stage version 3 to be specific. I absolutely love the entire Initial D franchise, all the way from Naomi to its current incarnation. I think it's some of the best arcade racing Sega has ever developed that doesn't have the name Daytona or Rally in the title. And I will say right off the top, if you're going to play Initial D, just learn to go into the first person view and not the third person view. It makes the game that much more fun and the sensation of speed that much better, so let's kick that off right there. But I've done a few different Initial D videos in the past, and I pretty much say about the same thing, but the Naomi 2 version right now is definitely one of my old school favorites, because it has that classic Dreamcast era graphical look to it, but it absolutely flies frame rate wise and gives you the best sensation of speed that you could get on Dreamcast era hardware. The entire premise of Initial D is so simple. Beat one opponent on the screen. You're racing against somebody heads up, and as long as you stay off the wall like I didn't here, you're going to have an absolutely fun time. What I love so much about Initial D is just how easy it is to pick up and play, and just how incredibly difficult it is to actually master. There's so many different courses in this game, and they all have slightly different variants, whether you're going uphill or downhill, whether you're at nighttime or daytime, things such as that. It just gives you such an incredible course to race, and learning all the turns, or learning the lines, getting in and out of the turns in the right apex, makes such a fundamental difference, especially when you get into more difficult opponents. You're going to have to practice every single one of these courses. You're going to have to get better at them. You're going to have to learn your vehicles, how they handle. It just makes you memorize everything and get a muscle memory for the steering and the game of the car you pick, to the point where you could play this game for 100 hours and still be learning different things, which is unlike most racing games. Honestly, you play Daytona 2, it's an absolute blast, one of my favorite games of all time, but you know pretty much everything about it within 20 minutes. As we move on to the next course here in the nighttime, I love the nighttime effects with the headlights, how they pseudo real-time light up the road underneath you. It's all just graphical effects. This isn't anything like ray tracing. It didn't really exist back then, but it does give a great illusion of actually having those headlights show you what's in front of you in real time. And with the rear view mirror rendering a second screen, at the same time, you can see your opponent's headlights coming towards you, and that sensation of the chase really amplifies the overall tenseness of this game. When you're in first place, you know one single mistake is going to knock you back, and you're going to have to fight back to get the pole position. If you're in second place and you can see your opponent right in front of you, every single turn matters, because one wrong move, one bump against the wall like I just did here, and it's going to cost you dearly. And that's what's so much fun about the entire Initial D franchise. It kind of plays like a bullet hell shmup, only in the fact that you know you're only like 1 second away from complete disaster. That one wall bump that you just saw about 20 seconds ago took me from winning this race to being in second place, and our opponent is now running away from us. So now we have to race a perfect line and hope that we can gain that advantage back that we just had. Every single turn is going to matter, and that's what's so much fun about a game like this. Once you get into a good car chase, you have that Initial D music in the background hyping you up, and you start drifting around the corners. You really want to just chase that car down and take the lead back. I think this game does it better than any other racing franchise ever played, giving you the risk versus reward of how you race within the world of Initial D. And unfortunately, sometimes you just lose, but when you lose, you know it's a mistake you made, and nothing that the game forced you into. But as we get behind the opponent's car again, trying to pick that clean racing line to drift around them at just the right time can be so difficult. One bumper bump right there, and I lost the lead that I just regained. If I had just come into that corner a little bit differently or slowed down a little more, I would have been able to maintain that lead and probably eked out a victory here. But that's the great part about Initial D. If you fail, it makes you want to come back and do it all over again, because you know the mistake you made was 100% an unforced error and you could have done better. Unfortunately, I really can't give you much of the soundtrack as far as the racing music is concerned, but have some of the interstitial music. It is quite good. I'll be back and talk more about the game. Well, at least I hope you got to hear that music. I'm never quite sure with Initial D because so much of it throws up flags. But as we move on to the next race here, I love the mix-up that you get in actual weather environments as well, because if you can't tell already, this isn't pavement, it's snow. And it's going to totally change the handling characteristics of your car. I grew up in Vermont, and I will tell you, snow definitely drives different than it does if you have tarmac. If you didn't grow up where there's snow, you definitely wouldn't know that. But this is what I love about Initial D, the versatility. You may be racing on the same course, but you might be doing it a completely different way. You may be going uphill at one point in time and downhill at the other, but you'll see I took a little bit too much speed into that first turn. I knew better, but I thought maybe I could just get that drift around. I hadn't quite yet adjusted for the snow-packed road. But that's where this game really shines, giving you all these different things to see and do. And if you like the anime series and the manga, you're going to enjoy this even more. Now, I will very well say that I have never seen an Initial D anime episode, and I've never read a manga in my life. No judgments against them, it's just not my form of entertainment. But even if you have absolutely no idea what Initial D is outside of this video or outside of a racing game, it really doesn't matter because you're going to have so much fun with it even if you don't know what's going on. And as we move back to the same course here, just in a daytime environment going uphill instead of downhill, that's the fun of this game. It is so challenging to learn a course, and then suddenly the game's going to pivot and tell you you need to race it in an entirely different way. But all of the physics of the driving and handling characteristics are so good, you're going to be able to do that. I do think that this is probably the best physics ever put to an arcade racing game. Sure, cars don't drift this easily in the real world unless you make a very big mistake or you're very good at doing it, but in the world of Initial D, all of the physics here just feel so good. The car handling, the drifting, once you learn it and understand it, you'll be great. This is not a car I usually race, so of course I went right into the wall there. But that's the other fun part about a game like this. You pick the vehicle you really want to master the same way that you would pick a fighter in a fighting game where you want to learn their entire move set. You spend time with the car, you understand how it turns, and then you slowly start to get better at it. And that is where a lot of the feedback loop comes in a game like Initial D here. Just learn it, master it, understand the courses, and you suddenly start getting better, and it drives you forward to get even better at that. But as we move back over to the snow stage here again, I just love this. The look of the Naomi 2 is just basically like two Dreamcast duct taped together. It 100% works in the context of looking graphically advanced enough to not feel too old, but to still have that nostalgia look of the Dreamcast era. And it is one of my favorite eras of 3D of all time. Honestly, if 3D had never gotten any better than the Naomi 2 and they were still developing games on it in 2024, I would still be a very happy gamer. I've got no issues with this whatsoever. It is graphically impressive enough for you to feel like it is a real world location, but still stylized in that Sega look enough to feel like it is a video game. And I do love when it transitions from the snow to the outdoor areas as well with all this grass here. It looks so good, but again, what I really love about this game, outside of the handling characteristics and the overall race courses, is just how fast it moves in the first person view. I do not like an arcade racing game if I don't feel like I'm actually going the speed indicated on the speedometer. Of course it's in kilometers here, we use miles in America, but it is still a very fast race. And I 100% get that sensation when I am playing this game on Naomi 2. Everything is moving by at a fevered clip, the frame rate is always holding up, and it always sells the illusion of moving as fast as the speedometer says, because you're not going to be doing this in real life. If you're driving 120 kilometers an hour down a mountain road, you're either on a race course or you're risking arrest. So you heard it here first. Don't drive this fast like this in snow. It's definitely not going to work out for you. But that's the great thing about a video game, is it doesn't matter if I just went right into the guardrail. There's no damage, there's no insurance claim. There is just fun and the realization that if we practice more, we can get better. But that's why I love the Initial D games so much. Every single one of them is great, some are better than others, but there's not a bad one in the bunch as far as the arcade releases are concerned. And this is still an active franchise today. It's been some time since Sega's released another one, at least as the recording of this voiceover I do them early, and most of them do not get ported home. Of the 13 games in the franchise, only 3 have ever seen home releases, the other 10 are arcade exclusives, but the great part is you can play most of them through other means if you have a modern PC. But if you've never played any Initial D game before, I think this one actually is a really good place to start. Sure, it does not have the most modern graphics because it is running on Naomi 2 and not a modern PC that's in an arcade cabinet, but it looks good enough and it's a great starting point to understand how the game plays, because honestly the physics and handling carry over for the most part in every single game. So if you get good at one of the original Initial Ds, you're going to be able to take that skill set into a more modern game, and you can kind of see how the franchise grew along with hardware as time goes on. But but this to me is just racing perfection. It's one of my favorite arcade racing games of all time, and it's one of my favorite Naomi games of all time, but we ran out of time here. I did not get to the next checkpoint, and I've also run out of time for this voiceover, but definitely check out Initial D if you never have, and tell me down below what your favorite game in the series is if you did. See you next time. Bye-bye.